So I want to talk a little bit about your work with MSF and about what would be going on now in Haiti. So, Mary, welcome.
Absolutely. I've been working with MSF, with Doctors Without Borders, since 1996 as a surgeon, so usually in war zones. And clearly, the disaster that's now happened in Haiti has great surgical needs. So, in fact, our teams are landing. We have hospitals there, and we actually have about 800 staff in Haiti right now, as well as about 30 expatriate staff as well. But of course, because the infrastructures have been completely destroyed with the earthquake, we're actually sending inflatable surgical tents down now. Should be landing, in fact, within a couple of hours, and do a rapid needs assessment, and then rapidly influx more physicians, usually surgery, orthopedics, anesthesia. That's kind of what's needed for us acutely
in this kind of disaster.
Yeah.
But Haiti's an interesting combination because it's kind of like the places that you go. You know, I remember when you first started here, you lectured to us in emergency medicine about your time in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And really remarkable stories. But Haiti's the kind of place where you would go even without a disaster.
Absolutely. In fact, we're there. It's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and the needs are enormous. They cannot support their own infrastructure, and we're providing free health care, which is normally very different in that country. It's usually fee-for-service, where the vast majority of the population can't afford to pay for their services. And especially with some of the violence that had been occurring in the earlier part of this decade, the surgical needs were there, the obstetric needs were there, all sorts of emergency care for us.
Tell me a little bit about what goes on in general with Doctors Without Borders. When you land in Sri Lanka, tell us, first of all, I want to know where else you've been, so we can catch up at the same time. I know you've been in the Congo.
I've been in the Congo a couple of times. I've been in Chad, and I've been in Burundi.
Man.
All conflict zones, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to the easy places. So tell me what you do, what kind of stuff and how different is it? I mean, here we're sitting in a radio station in the lobby of our hospital. And I complain about the resources we have all the time here. But how much different is it? How can you turn that switch to totally transform the way you care for patients?
Yeah, it's really incredible. Of course, there's always the language barrier that you have with patients. But in addition to that, we mostly provide emergency surgery, so war surgery, a lot of trauma. And you find that, and unlike what I do here, which is fairly specialized, what I do there is everything. So I'll be doing cesarean sections on women in obstructed labor. I'll be doing trauma surgery, orthopedic surgery. Everything. Every kind of surgery is you, because usually you're the only surgeon.
And when you first get there, are you prepared for some of these procedures you're doing, or are you just...
you're
the best person around.
Aren't I always?
I say that to people. I'm like, Dr. Hopkins is on today. You're going to be in great hands. Not only is she a great surgeon, but she's a wonderful person.
No, thank you. But no. You're prepared in the sense that you always do the best that you can, and if you've been trained really well, which I think pretty much all U.S. physicians have been trained really well. It helps that I've trained in New York City, so we had a lot of trauma, a lot of what we call penetrating trauma, so gunshot wounds, stab wounds, that kind of thing. Although for the enormity of earthquake damage, you'll talk a little bit about what kind of injuries you'll see with that. It's a little bit different, but it's all trauma, it's all orthopedic surgery, and they're the ABCs that we always follow. There's no intensive care unit usually in the places that I'm in, or the intensive care unit's really rudimentary, so therefore you can't do, really advanced surgery. So it's really life-saving, limb-saving surgery that we're doing.
Yeah, you're just patching them up and hoping for the best. You don't have the resources, though. It's not like you can transfer this person, leave them on a ventilator.
Exactly.
There
are no ventilators. Yeah. Exactly. So as I say, it's a lot of life-saving, and by and large, because most of the patients are actually young, they can get through a lot of things that you would absolutely be surprised at, like the resilience of the human body, how you can heal yourself, even if you've had massive traumatic injuries.
But you must have to make a lot of decisions on people that you could save here, that you just have to say, there's not much.
Well, you always obviously try. The harder thing is, since we don't have the studies, like there's no CAT scan. And as you know right now, Billy, anybody that basically sneezes needs a CAT scan to diagnose.
We talked about how we radiate people last week on the show.
Yeah, and so there's no CAT scan. So it's all on your surgical judgment. And there's nothing kind of worse than seeing a 2 or 3-year-old at night with a distended abdomen and thinking, is this surgery? Do I operate on this patient or do I not operate? And I find those the really hard decisions. And, you have to err on the side of we're going to take the child to the operating room as opposed to waiting and watching because you just don't have the monitoring systems.
And do you have a team of people, or are you out there on your own?
Yeah,
you have some
there's
people
always a team of people, especially with surgery. Obviously, you need anesthesia, you need competent nurses. And I was in Haiti actually last year at the Doctors Without Borders facilities, and they have just incredible doctors and anesthesiologists and nurses whose level of dedication is enormous. So even if the infrastructures have been really eroded there or even destroyed, I think that they're going to be really able to pick up the level.
Now, what's the reception to the people here? It must be very varied because in some of these conflict zones, I mean, they're killing their brothers and sisters. So how do they receive humanitarian aid workers, medical aid workers who are perhaps repairing their combatants
right. Well, it's a huge issue right now because one of the most important things is for everybody to realize that we are politically neutral as an organization and we're there to help all sides, irrelevant of what ethnic group, what side you're on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But those boundaries are becoming increasingly murky, especially in areas like Darfur, in the Congo, and certainly in Iraq and Afghanistan and other areas in the Middle East. So, in fact, humanitarian aid workers are becoming targets, which is very different and at a very sort of rapid rates, being kidnapped or being killed in those areas. So, yeah, I mean, it's tricky work. It's somewhat dangerous, but the important thing is getting our message and being there for people that really have no other options.